Hey everybody, who's your Jedi here with another review for you. This time talking episode 17 of season 4 of Arrow, Beacon of Hope. And this is an episode where the plot is really not so great, but the character moments are pretty strong. And I mean, it's it always kind of annoys me when they can't find a really good balance between the two on any TV show. And I mean, it's obviously writing stuff like this is not easy. And, not every episode is going to be shining pure gold. I remember years ago I read an interview with a guy named Ron Moore, and if that name sounds familiar, he's one of the main guys behind Battlestar Galactica, the reimagined one from several years back. He was a big guy on Star Trek back in the 90s. He did that virus show on the Sci-Fi Channel. I don't know. I never watched it. Whatever. He's an experienced TV guy, and he even basically said, yeah, when you're doing something like 20 some episodes of TV a year, you're basically guaranteed that at least one episode is going to be a complete and utter stinker. And now, in all fairness, I'm paraphrasing there, but now I wouldn't call this episode a stinker by any standards. It's just, again, not the strongest episode of the season so far. So let's kind of talk about some of the weaker aspects of that. Now, a lot of people have kind of felt that Brie Larvin, aka Bug-Eyed Bandit, was kind of one of the weaker, basically kind of one of the villains that worked the least last year on The Flash, and I would be inclined to agree. It wasn't a bad episode, and Emily Kenny is clearly loving having this kind of fun. I mean, she is clearly just enjoying the hell out of being able to go out there and be as crazy as as this character. And so I've got no complaints about her acting, and her going out there, the whole bee theme in her costume, clothes even more amped up, making all these ridiculous bee puns. I mean, yes, it's horribly silly, but a character going in an animal sort of themed outfit, making ridiculous animal themed puns, or just puns in general. I mean, that's what Catwoman is kind of well known for. I mean, granted, she's dialed it down a lot over the years, but if particularly in the olden days, that was her thing. The Lee Merriweather, Julie Newmar days, particularly. So, as goofy as it is, there's a long list of characters exactly like this in the comics. So I can't fault the show for really going there. And this being a Felicity centric episode, here they could be a little bit lighter about things, and here because of that lightness, they can basically be a little bit more goofy. Now that said, even though she wasn't the strongest villain on Flash last season, Bug-Eyed Brie works actually pretty well here. In fact, I'd say she's even stronger here on Arrow than she was on Flash. And one of the nice things here is that this kind of continues to build Felicity's own personal rogues gallery. We've got Bug-Eyed Bandit, we've got Calculator, we've got Brother Eye. Uh, Cupid, I imagine, if she knew who Felicity, the whole deal would be in there. But probably not so much after last episode. In fact, oddly enough, Cupid seem to admire Felicity after last episode. So oh man, that would actually be really interesting, having to put Felicity back dealing with Cupid one more time. Only this time, Cupid maybe wanting to be her friend or something. That would that would be fantastic. Oh man, I hope we see something like that one day. That would be great. We also get to see Felicity, kind of having some time with Thea. That's not something that hasn't really been played up a huge amount lately. And of course, Felicity's mom is always a treat. And what's really great about Felicity's mom is that Felicity, compared to most of the other characters on Arrow, is a little bit more in her own quirky, unique way over the top. And Felicity's mom just cranks all of that up to 11. And then you've got, the two of them kind of, Felicity's mom and Thea kind of pulling Felicity in opposite directions. Thea's like, hey, come on, come back to the team. You know this life is awesome. And Felicity's mom is like, "Ah, come on, baby. You kind of need to get out of there, move on with your life, and all this other stuff." And it's just so much fun to watch Felicity, even in the midst of this life or death situation, kind of struggle with just like being aggravated with her mom. Somebody that she dearly loves, but who also drives her up the wall at times. And I have to sympathize. That's pretty accurate depiction of me and my mom. In fact, I see more than a little bit of the similarity between my relationship with my mom and the way Felicity and her mom are. Although, in their own ways, Felicity's mom and my mom are polar opposites. Long story short, my mom is basically the small town girl who never quite left the small town, in her heart, in her mind, even though she hasn't lived in that town uh, in forever. So, her world is kind of a very small box. And, if you've been following my videos for a while, I mean, I've spent like 6 years of my life living in Asia. I've moved so a couple of different parts of the United States. Um, you know, yeah. So me and my mom are really polar opposites. But of course, she's my mom and I love her. It's just sometimes it's just like, oh, mom, I love you, but God. But anyway, I'm kind of rambling here. Um, so let me see here. Um, what I really do like here is that while pretty much everybody figures, okay, Felicity is probably going to come back to the team at some point, and it wouldn't be that crazy if maybe it might not even be this season. I mean, from what we see in that flash forward to the future, does not look like she and Oliver are exactly on the best of terms. Now, one way or another, I'm sure Felicity will be back working with the team by the next season at some point. But having her kind of do what she said, I want to make Palmer Tech this beacon of hope. I want to go out and do stuff heroically in my own way with what I have, something that's totally on me. That's interesting. I mean, we did see on Legends of Tomorrow that Palmer Tech was eventually turned into Smoke Technologies. Felicity says, "I want to make this company that beacon of hope. I want to do good. Use the company to do good in the world." And with the biochip, she definitely has that chance. I mean, they do say that these things are going for $25,000 a pop, and no doubt about it, if you're some person who's been suffered a serious spinal injury, that's probably going to be pretty stiff. Of course, you would think that a person that runs a consumer electronics company would be aware that consumer electronics, initially when they roll out, are usually extremely expensive, but that the price of them goes down over time. I mean, when DVD players first came out, like late 80s or early 90s or something, they went for hundreds of dollars. Now you can get those for next to nothing. So, frankly, it'd be like, well, yeah, they're expensive right now, but as we roll them out, we're going to have some money in, and we'll refine the technology over time. We'll make it cheaper, and the price will come down. I mean, I know it's not an immediate solution, but some things do take time. So, but again, this is TV. You sometimes have to let the real world. Ooh, one of these days, I'm going to learn to set up straight. No, you kind of have to sometimes let the real world details go. Sorry, I was just looking at the wiring here on my headset, and it's becoming disturbingly frayed at some point. I think I might be due for a new headset at some point because I've had this one for a couple of years, and this is $12 worth of Walmart technology, folks. So anyway, um, I think that kind of had to cover what's going on with Felicity. One other thing that I did have to say about what was going on in this episode is when the bees form into that sort of enforcer, whatever. I mean, it's just one of those things where you're like, okay, there was some obvious saving money on the budget. It's like, yeah, let's stick a stuntman in a leather suit and say it's made out of bees, which again, completely ridiculous, but totally fitting with a comic book show. And at least they kind of went with a good look that made sense. I mean, that kind of uniform, the Hive characters in the comics have worn stuff that's very, very similar on many occasions. So yeah, I'll let that one slide. The other big thing this episode was kind of bringing Curtis Holt onto the team. And, he makes the perfect replacement for Felicity, and it's even noted by people in this episode that the two of them are cut from very similar cloth. And we see him, even though he's sick, he manages to get down there into the Arrow Cave. He, steps up to the plate and, helps save the day. We could even say him, remember this guy got a bronze medal in the decathlon. We even get to see him do a little bit of physical work to show that, yeah, Curtis can take care of himself if he has to. And I really did like that moment when, Oliver kind of yells at him, and then everybody's like, Oliver, dude, come on. And, Oliver does kind of come around at the end. And even though he did kind of really get on Curtis's case, when it really didn't seem appropriate, Oliver did have a not entirely unreasonable point. It's like, look, if he's going to be doing this, he needs to understand just how nasty this can get. Actually, kind of reminds me of a story I read in The Punisher, where this young hacker dude is like, "Hey, Punisher, let me help you out." And Punisher's like, "Are you sure about this? Do you have any idea just how bad what you're asking to get yourself into is?" And of course, that all ends in tears. But yeah. In any case, I'm definitely looking forward to more of Curtis. The idea that we might, over time, the next couple of seasons, get to see him more properly transform into Mr. Terrific would be really, really great. Mr. Terrific is a pretty cool character, so I would really definitely like to see that. I have a feeling it's going to be like what we're starting to see with Cisco over on The Flash, where they're slowly creeping him towards becoming Vibe. Um, Also, this episode, I did really like that scene where Laurel's like, "Hey, Oliver, you and I got to have a talk about this whole situation." Again, because it gives Laurel something more to do that has her stand as a character by herself. Now, granted, it's totally in relation to Oliver, but here, it's like, it basically kind of gives her it gives her more to do. And that's good. I think Laurel's sort of been shuffled off a little to the side too much lately. And here, having her sort of be like the voice of reason with the situation, it works. It works for her character. Let's see. What else? What else? I suppose we should move on to the other bad guys of this episode. Watching Damien Dark receive a visit from Malcolm Merlin in prison. That was great. And of course, John Barrowman just breaks out the smarm, and it is glorious. It's just like, Damien, yeah, in Hive, we're glad you're gone, because, you were always using your effing magic to kill people for petty, stupid reasons. And then Damien tries to, like, do that with the thing, and Malcolm's like, makes a dick joke. It's just like, but even in prison, with his rather limited resources, we see that Damien is not to be underestimated, even though he has clearly slacked off on keeping his League of Assassins physical skills uh, in check. I'm like, damn, dude, seriously, you got a butt kicking from just a random couple of prison goobers? Seriously, man. Magic or not, you probably should have spent some time keeping in physical fighting shape. That's just sad. Although at the end of the day, Dark shows that he's got Murmur of all people under his thumb, and that was a genuine surprise. I'm like, whoa, they brought back Murmur? Well, that's cool. And it was funny sort of seeing Dark react to that, like, ooh, like it was just sort of like weird, like this evil magician guy who's done all God only knows what stuff, has been alive for who knows how long. He sees Murmur, and even he's sort of like, ooh, wow, that's pretty messed up. It actually reminded me a little bit of what we saw in season 2 of Daredevil, some of the stuff at the prison there. I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but yeah, that was pretty cool. Um, and then there's the big reveal at the end that looks like Andy has been working for Hive all this time and never really did come back to the light. Ooh. Now, I would say that this may move Andy up on the list of people who end up in that grave, but somehow I can't really see Felicity giving that much of a rat's ass that Andy is dead. Now, if Diggle were to die, then yeah, she would be mega upset, and of course, so would Oliver. But again, I'm still feeling it. I'm positive it's going to be Captain Lance. And hmm, I think that covers everything I had to say about this episode. So I'm going to call it here. As always, everybody, please comment, rate, subscribe. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Who's Your Jedi, and please also join me on Tumblr at Jedi Reviewer. Until next time, take care and have a good one.